Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's episode is going to be on peace, and specifically how you and I can find true peace, and not just a temporary relief kind of peace, but an everlasting peace that doesn't go away no matter the situation you're in. In life, you may experience like a relief kind of peace, as in maybe you're struggling to find a job and then you finally get that job and you feel, oh, okay, I got the job now. I have a peace about it. But it's not really a peace, it's just a relief from the pressure you're feeling. I'm talking about a peace that no matter what situation you go through, you will forever have a peace. And that's the kind of peace that Jesus offers to you today. In Deuteronomy chapter 31, we read the story where Moses is speaking to the children of Israel and encouraging them. And he's assuring them of God's presence in their life. And he says in verse 8, "And the Lord, He it is that doth go before me." He's saying, the Lord, He's the one who goes with you and goes with you where you go. And he says, "He will be with thee. He will not fail thee, neither forsake thee. Fear not, neither be dismayed." He's saying, He will never fail you. He's never going to leave you. He's never going to leave you stranded. And you know what? That's what Jesus promises. Jesus is promising to never leave you. Jesus is promising to never forsake you and never go away. And you know what? When you have the Lord who created the universe forever with you, that gives you a different kind of peace. Even through the worst possible scenario, like one of the worst possible scenarios I can think of is losing a child. Now, I'm not a father, obviously, but I can't imagine what that would feel like to lose a child, especially a young child. And we actually read the story of King David losing his newborn son. If you go to 2 Samuel chapter 12, and we'll read from verse 18. It says, "And it came to pass on the 7th day that the child died. And the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. And how will he then vex himself, if we tell him that the child is dead?" The servants are scared to tell David that his son, his newborn child, is dead, because they're saying when the child was actually alive, just sick, but not dead, but alive, he was how troubled David was. And he's saying, once we tell him he's dead, what's he going to do to himself? Verse 19. "But when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He is dead." David saw them talking, and he's like, "Oh, I think maybe it's about my son." And he asked them, "Is he dead?" And the servant said, "Yep, he's gone." Verse 20. "Then David arose from the earth, and washed and anointed himself, and changed his apparel, and came into the house of the Lord, and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat." So the moment he finds out the news of his child's death, he's no longer in a fast. He's no longer fasting. He's no longer mourning. He just gets up, he changes his clothes, he cleans himself, and he goes to the temple and worships God. And then he comes back to his house and he eats. Verse 21, "Then said his servants unto him, What thing is this that thou hast done? Thou didst fast and weep for the child while it was alive. But when the child was dead, thou didst rise and eat bread. And he said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept. For I said, Who can tell whether God will be gracious to me, that the child may live?" He's saying, while he was alive, there was hope that the child could live. Maybe God would provide a way that the child can live. Verse 23, "But now he is dead. Wherefore should I fast?" Or why should I fast? "Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me." Even though his child has literally just died, he still has a peace. He says, I will go to him. I'll see him in heaven one day. But you know what? He's not going to come to me, but I will go to him. And he's saying there's no point in him continuing to do these things because the child's dead. It's over. And he has peace, and he has an everlasting peace that it's under God's control. And my brother once had this really bad heart problem, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. His heart rate was really high, and the doctors even said that He should have died overnight, but he didn't. And during that time, I genuinely thought my brother was going to die. I really did. I was scared. I remember coming home from mum picking me up from school and saying, "Don't freak out, but Alex is in the hospital." And I was genuinely scared that my brother was going to die. But, I actually had a peace about it that even if he did die, he'd still go to heaven. And that's something that this world will never offer you. That kind of peace is something that you can't get from anywhere else but from God. And maybe today, I want to give you the opportunity to get this peace as well. In the book of Jonah, we read the story of a prophet sent by God to go preach to the people of Nineveh and to give them the opportunity to repent from their ways. But Jonah didn't want to do that. So he gets in a boat and he wants to flee from God and go as far away as he can. And he gets in the boat with other men who are already there, and they set out and sail on the sea. And it says in Jonah chapter 1, we'll read verse 4 here. It says, this is after they've gone out into the sea. But the Lord sent out a great wind into the sea, and there was a mighty tempest in the sea, so that the ship was like to be broken. So this is so strong they think the ship's going to break. Verse 5, then the mariners were afraid and cried every man unto his God, not the true God, but the God they worshipped, and cast forth the wares that were in the ship into the sea, to lighten it of them. But Jonah was gone down into the sides of the ship, and he lay and was fast asleep. This whole time Jonah's sleeping, and they're on the top and they're throwing at everything, trying to lighten the ship just to stay afloat. And we read down in verse 11, they've gone down to Jonah, and they're like, Jonah, get up. Why is this happening? And Jonah tells them that I ran away from God. I'm a Hebrew. I serve the one true God, and I run away from him. And they're saying, why have you done this thing? It says in verse 11, then they said unto him, what shall we do unto thee, that the sea may be calm unto us? For the sea wrought and was tempestuous. Verse 12, and he said unto them, take me up, and cast me forth into the sea. So shall the sea be calm unto you, for I know that for my sake this great tempest is upon you. And then in verse 15, so they took up Jonah, and cast him forth into the sea, and the sea ceased from her raging. You know what? In life, when you go through a hard time and you're struggling, you can try and throw out anything anything that's you think is the problem. The men, they're throwing things out the boat to lighten it. And maybe you're throwing out things in your life. Maybe you think, oh, it's because I swear too much, so you stop swearing. Oh, it's because I watch pornography too much, so you throw that out. Oh, it's because I drink too much, and you throw it out. But you know what you haven't given yet? You haven't given yourself to God. And once you give yourself to God, that's when you will experience true peace that Jesus offers you. Nothing else in life will give you this peace. It doesn't matter what you get rid of, but until you stop and you give your life to Jesus Christ, that is when you'll get the eternal peace. And Jesus offers this peace to you today. If you read in John 14:6, John 14, chapter 6, it says, Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father, but by me. You can have peace in your life if you just give your life to Jesus Christ. And Jesus is the only way to heaven. The only way to heaven. And when you have that security that you're going to heaven, it doesn't matter what happens in this life, because you know that you will forever be with the Lord when you die. And that's the kind of peace this world can never offer you.